Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining today's webinar, How to Quickly and Easily Create Interactive Dashboards with Tableau. Before we start, quick housekeeping notes here. This webinar is being recorded and will be available for your reference later. And all your lines are muted, so please post your questions or comments on the chat window, and all of them would be addressed towards the end of the session. So before we get started, I would quickly like to give an intro about our instructor for the session today. His name is Robert Crocker, and he's a freelance data visualization designer. He has been leveraging Tableau for close to a decade now, and he has brought immense value to companies such as Apple, IBM, and Nike, to name a few. And in this webinar, Robert Crocker will show you the potential that Tableau has and what you can do with and how you can work with Tableau on a daily basis for major projects in your daily works. Thanks everyone. And I would request Robert to take it over from here.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Got 31 participants. It's awesome. Yeah, quick shout out to Gray Campus. They're trying to get you all the best content, and I'm flattered to be a part of this. I'm gonna speak slowly so you can absorb as much as I'm trying to share with you today. We're gonna talk about Tableau and a little bit of data science because it's likely why you're here. But I'm also going to show you how I build dashboards in Tableau. So let's just get on with it. I am Robert Crocker. I'm very experienced in this field of data visualization, and I don't say this to boast, but I want to be able to let anyone on the call know that I can likely empathize with you. So if you've got questions at the end of this, we will have time for that. I've worked with nonprofits, I've worked with corporates, I have worked as a consultant, and I'm often a consultant in the jobs that I'm working on. I've worked with startups, and I'm also a freelancer. So nonprofits I've worked for, they help tribes in Africa. These are some of the projects that I've helped people with my dashboards. Corporations, worked at Georgia Pacific for years, helping to distribute paper towels and toilet paper around the US. As a consultant, I worked in the Bay Area, working at Pinterest and Charles Schwab and Gap. Startups, worked with startups in Australia that are taking care of child's and daycares. And as a freelancer, I've worked in, everything in between. So if you're on this call and you're working in data or want to work in data, let me know what questions you might have. I've likely experienced something similar to it. The only thing that I haven't worked in too much is government, but I'm happy to try and answer those questions you might have. As a freelancer, consultant, corporate worker, I've worked from offices. I've worked from co-working spaces. If you can hear background noise right now, I apologize. I'm in a WeWork in Nashville right now. I have worked in airports, just getting something done before getting on a very long flight. And I've literally worked from beachside cafes as a digital nomad, living that lifestyle. So again, ask me any questions that you might have. I can likely engage with you. And I wanna go slow because I want you to have time to write down questions that you'll have for me later. But I want to cover today, why is Tableau worth learning? This is a data science program. Why are we talking about Tableau? Well, as a data scientist or someone working with data, Tableau fits into your workflow in a very specific area, and I want to shed some light on the areas that I think Tableau slots into your workflow best. I want to show or tell you how the company Tableau seeks to serve you all as data scientists. Like, you are users of the Tableau tool. Tableau is a very general application for a lot of people, but data scientists are a very important user of this tool. And Tableau has done some interesting things lately to serve you very well. Finally, we'll build some basic dashboards just so you can see how easy it is to do work with Tableau. And I'll also talk to why I think the ease of use with Tableau is really important, especially for you all. But I'll save that until then. And lastly, we'll just have a little time for Q&A. And I keep putting my mouse up there just to see what time we got. So we got about 30 minutes before Q&A. So why are we talking about Tableau? I wanted to show logos of a bunch of companies that use Tableau, but off the top of my head, I can't think of many large companies that don't use Tableau right now. And I don't say that to boast again or say Tableau is the best. It's almost like it's not as ubiquitous as Microsoft Excel. But if you know how to use Tableau, if you say that you have experience using Tableau, that there's a company that probably has some work for you to do, or they have some problems that you can be a part of solving by knowing how to leverage Tableau. When I worked in Atlanta years ago, there was Home Depot, there was Delta, there's Georgia Pacific, there's Coca-Cola, there's Pepsi, like some of the biggest companies, like they're using Tableau, but you've also got that laundry list of companies that I said use Tableau that are very small. Tableau actually has a Tableau Foundation, and Tableau's foundation sort of gifts Tableau, which is maybe $1,000 some odd for the desktop license per year, to nonprofits, so they can leverage Tableau's technology to help out with their causes. So why Tableau? A lot of people use it. It's a skill that will transfer from company to company. Extremely versatile. This tiny picture that you can't really make out, got a lot of words on it. Each one of those words is a hosted data source that Tableau can connect to. And I don't know if you can see my cursor, but there's a ODBC driver and a web data connector over here. If Tableau doesn't have a connector to a third-party data source that you want to get data from, you can build a connector that allows Tableau to get data from that source. So why Tableau? Because as a data visualization platform, you can use it with just about any data source. It even connects to LinkedIn Sales Navigator. If you're a recruiter, you can punch in your credentials there and pull in data about your potential candidates. Tableau, like I said earlier, it's an awesome complement to your data science skills. And these are skills that you're going to be leveraging or learning throughout the program, such as Python, R, machine learning. Like these skills are core to being an effective data scientist, but Tableau is how you communicate your insights to the stakeholders that are going to do something with the output of the model that you've created. So Tableau is not like going to replace your data science skills, but it is going to make you a much more valuable data scientist by allowing you to communicate your insights in an engaging way, in a way that doesn't look like the rainbow color palette that you get from Matplotlib by default. As a maybe seen this, I ripped this off from Great.io, and Great ripped it off from someone else. But as I was doing research for this talk that I was going to be giving to you, it was interesting to learn how much is expected from data scientists. You're expected to know everything there is about your domain, right? You need to be able to write computer programs. You need to understand the math behind the statistical models. Let's use natural language processing as an example. Not only, let's say you're doing natural language processing for ad campaigns to certain, like a certain travel industry. Not only do you need to be a domain expert of the travel industry, but you're also supposed to understand how the math behind an NLP model works, as well as like develop the actual computer programs that are going to be scaled to do this on a repeatable basis. That's just like those few things is a ridiculous amount of knowledge for any one person to have, but that's what's expected of data scientists, and that's also what Gray Campus seeks to like give to you through this program. What you don't see here is data visualization, and that is where Tableau fits in. So why am I bringing this Venn diagram up with data visualization? I bring it up because this is an example of me trying to communicate a concept to you that's very complex, and that's where data visualization comes into play. That's data visualization's sweet spot, and therefore that's Tableau's sweet spot. So Tableau is actually, data visualization is very important to any data scientist trying to communicate a message with key stakeholders, right? You've studied a lot, you've done your homework, you know your models are producing results that someone needs to act on, but you might not have studied how to communicate those insights to someone effectively. Tableau's defaults do a lot of this work for you, which is fantastic. They've taken data visualization best practices, baked it into their tool, and they've done so without asking you to learn another language. You might be an expert in SQL, and you can write analytical queries in SQL, but you haven't learned Python, or you haven't learned R, or you haven't learned C, you haven't learned some other language. Tableau is not expecting you to learn another language in order to leverage the tool. They are giving you a tool that allows you to get your insights onto the stakeholders and share them very quickly. Now, where does it fit into your flow as a data scientist? If you haven't gotten into your data science curriculum yet, then this flow might not be familiar to you. But as actually a data professional, I won't even say a data scientist, this is actually, I'd say, the unique data science node in this flow. But as anyone working with data, there's going to be some data source where this raw data comes from. And it's not going to be in a form that you need. So Python and R, as well as SQL, a couple of the languages that you're going to learn throughout Gray Campus's program in artificial intelligence, they're going to tell you a little bit about how to process data. You're going to learn a lot about how to model data, how to derive some sort of insight from this. Should we color our button orange, or should we color our button purple? Should we use this phrasing in our copy, or should we use this other phrasing in our copy? Your data science skills that you'll develop in this program help you a lot with the modeling. Then there's a deployment of that model to production, and then monitoring of how well your model is performing over time. But what we don't see here is we don't see the exploration and the reporting of your findings. But this is where Tableau fits into the flow. So Tableau is sort of sitting out here and it's saying, hey, did you process your data effectively? Connect Tableau to your quote unquote cleaned data set so that you can quickly see, did we actually clean this data or not? Like, what results are we getting from our data processing? So that you don't continue to do all this work on bad data. Tableau will allow you to see into that. Your modeling and really the communication of your insights to a stakeholder, maybe they don't understand what a p-value is, and seeing a p-value significant is meaningful to scientists and statisticians, but the people that are going to make decisions and write the check on whatever it is that you're trying to advise them to do in the business, those people might not know what a p-value is. So with Tableau, you can craft a narrative, and I'll show you some examples of that in a couple slides from now. But the crafting of a narrative, we all understand story. We've been telling stories for a long time, and people can follow a story. And by telling them a story, which you can do with Tableau, you're bringing them along for the ride, and then they engage with what you've done without needing to understand anything about p-values or what your model's doing at a lower level. So on the exploratory piece that Tableau provides you with, quickly slicing and dicing data and doing so visually, this can allow you to quickly validate your model. Let's see, my animations are not working here, but it allows you to quickly validate your model. If you're getting a result, let's say it's supposed to be a yes or no result from your model, but you're getting a lot of null values, Tableau is going to show you, hey, we're getting a lot of null values here. And then you can go correct for that. Maybe there's a hypothesis that you didn't anticipate when you began working with the model, which happens a lot. Tableau is going to allow you to quickly see that, take corrective action, and continue doing the work. We can also validate our data cleaning, which is something I mentioned earlier, and then maybe iterate on your questions. Let's say you've asked if like orange or purple are the right button colors for your ad campaign, and both yield similar results, but you haven't tried red. So let's introduce red into our model and see if we get a significantly different value of these ad campaigns now. And button color might sound like an odd example of something that you would run an A/B test on, but it's actually something that's done very commonly in political campaigns, which are like getting close to one of those in the US. And there's a company called Optimizely. They use Tableau at that company, and Optimizely specializes in running A/B tests. And their algorithms are not what they use to communicate their insights, but Tableau is a tool that they might use to communicate those insights to their stakeholders. And just so we can get to Tableau a little bit sooner and not continue to go through slide after slide, let's explore some data together. All right. So this is one of Tableau's standard dashboards, but underneath this dashboard is a data set, and it is a sales commission data set. So we see our sales data here, and we see some regions, and we see some salesperson. If we wanted to look and see what salespeople are in our data set, let's say we're validating it, and we expect to see certain salespeople in here. To basically get a list of our salespeople, it's as easy as taking a dimension and dropping it on the row shelf, and now I got a little table, right? But let's say that we want to understand how these salespeople are distributed across regions. What we can do is we can drag region out here, right? And now we've got salespeople by region. We've got Central, East, and West. If we want to see the distribution of salespeople across region, all we have to do is drag salesperson up onto the column, change it from a dimension to a measure, and do a quick count distinct. And now we see that most of our salespeople are in the Eastern region. We are analyzing data in the flow with Tableau, which is what it's all about. You don't have to do a lot of thinking to do this. I don't have to say, what's the syntax for this count distinct calculation? I just simply say, hey, I don't want it to be this dimension anymore. I want it to be a measure, and I want to do this aggregation on it. Go for it. And Tableau just takes care of that for you. Super, super fast. It's just an example. I'm doing a little analysis with Tableau. Hopefully my animations are working here because I've got some dashboards that I want to show you. All right, great, perfect. Crafting a narrative is one thing that I talked about. Now, what we just saw with Tableau, very basic stuff. Like I made a bar chart. So what? We saw that East was larger than Central. So what? What's really powerful is if you can craft an entire story. So this is an example of a dashboard that I made for the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. Let's go ahead and click in, and it takes us there. Fantastic. This is Tableau Public. And what we see here is a rundown of like what are the Sustainable Development Goals. And I've got a little instruction here to say, explore the data more, like keep going. This is survey results. The next thing I want my users to do is filter the data so that they can find themselves. I'm not going to do this because it's a massive data set and this is Tableau Public, so it's not that performant. But this is something that you could hand over to a stakeholder. Let's say it's in a certain department within your organization. Maybe they're looking to target certain people of a given age in a given country, et cetera, with these attributes. Tableau allows you to make a tool for this person and then walk themselves through it instead of you having to hold their hand and walk through it with them. So what are the most popular goals? Well, what we can see here in very small text is good health and well-being, right? This is the most popular goal in the Sustainable Development Goals. This is back in 2015, I think. But partnership for the goals is actually the lowest. And just above that, life below water. So if you have a specific goal in mind as you're looking through this, you can see how you stack up. And then I've continued to elaborate on this narrative to say, you know, let's sort. If you've ever done a quiz that says, you know, 1 if it got worse, 3 if you think it stayed the same, 5 if you think it got better. That's what this chart is supposed to show. So this is ordered by the popularity of the votes. And you see, do you think it got, like, which ones improved the most? It's like, okay, affordable and clean energy seem to improve the most over time. This is interesting. Learning about the data set. We've crafted a narrative for our user. And again, this is all done in Tableau. It's a little bit of a complicated chart, but it was built in Tableau. And the last thing that I want people to do, sort of to drive action, is to take my world survey. I'll click this. We'll see if the link's broken. Hey, it takes us to the SDG, and we can take that survey. So with Tableau, you really can like bring people into the story around your data. You can share results and spark a more strategic conversation with your data. So this is a little bit more analytical. Let's jump into this, see how interesting it is. And yeah, this is really for people in the US who buy homes. You know, maybe you want to sell your home now. Maybe you want to buy a home. Let's see how recent the data is. It is not super recent. Most recent thing we've got is June 2017. So let me go December. Actually, let's go back to the recession. I think it was like May 2008, something like that. And at the time, I think I was in Tennessee. So again, this is all Tableau. Maybe this is data that you've analyzed. And in Tableau, you're creating a tool for someone to ask their own questions, bring themselves through your story. And it's very simple to build these sort of things in Tableau. So we can see, like, at this time, would have been I might ask the question, was this a good time to buy a home or sell a home? Well, this was a better time to buy a home than a few years prior when everything was inflated, but it might not be the best time to sell a home. And of course, if we were back then, we wouldn't be able to predict the future. So who knows if it's a good time now. But if I looked at it, sooner to our present date, then I might say, ooh, that looks like a time when prices were inflated. So maybe I want to hold on to my asset, or maybe I want to sell my asset now. Who knows? You let them make the decisions. You're the data scientist. You're the dashboard designer. You're just creating the tool for them to leverage. All right, back to the presentation. But where is Tableau heading? Tableau recently released a data analytics API, which is amazing. If you write Python or R now, you can already use this API within Tableau to use predictive models within your dashboards. If you don't know Python or R right now, you will know Python and R by the time you get through the Gray Campus curriculum. I know it's 6 months. It's a lot of time to be working with Python and R. You can even add scripts to Tableau's data prep pipelines. And very soon, Tableau is allowing you to write data back to the database. So this is, like, with Tableau, you can do so much as a data scientist. No longer do you need to learn another data visualization language or another data visualization library. You just need to know some simple things about Tableau, and then you can bring your Python and R code into Tableau and leverage the work that you've done on that model within your dashboard. You can programmatically, or you can schedule your script to be run with Tableau Prep. Real quick, I'll show you what Tableau Prep looks like. So this is Tableau Prep. This comes along with Tableau Desktop License, and Tableau Prep allows you to add things to steps in your data pipeline that you build. And it's a very, very fun, very friendly environment to build these data pipelines. But if we see here a script, you can connect to an R server or a Python server. Either language is acceptable by Tableau. Once you connect, you just browse for your Python code, you connect to it, and from that, you'll get some output data set, and then you can continue to process that. With this data flow, you can schedule it, and then that code that you've built, the work that you've done, it's like people get to glean value from that for months, if not years, which is fantastic. You don't want your hard work to go without making an impact. You want your work to make an impact. And very soon, Tableau is going to allow us to write back to databases. All right, so as for making an impact, from VentureBeat AI, they say 87% of data science projects never make it into production. It's like, ooh, why am I sharing such an abysmal statistic with you? I'm sharing this with you because what I heard in this talk that was mentioning this statistic is that the reason that 87% of data science projects never make it into production is because people weren't communicating the value of their data science projects effectively. Um, you need to be able to communicate these insights effectively with people so that they do get into production. Tableau is a tool that allows you to do this very, very well, and without making your already full plate of responsibilities even larger. Tableau just says, hey, we've made this drag and drop. We've made this as dead simple as possible. Now, leverage our tool, bring your data science skills into it, and we're basically, like, I'd say Tableau, like folks that use Tableau, they're much more likely to get their data science projects through to production than if they don't use Tableau. Another reason this stat is so high is because to get your data science project into production requires a lot of things. It requires you to, bring your data science modules into the data pipeline that you're developing. And if that's R is great in R Studio and R Serve, but it's not as easy to integrate into applications as, say, Python. But regardless of whether you use R or Python, Tableau allows you to bring those scripts into your dashboards and make it a part of production, so long as your dashboard gets published. Tableau also has Tableau Server, which is where you share your dashboards. We sort of saw Tableau Server here. If we go to my profile, it's not the most appealing thing. Like, this is where we can host dashboards that you've made online. And with Tableau Server, you host these online, but they're accessed from people within your organization that have the proper credentials to download your dashboards. All right, so let's get off of my little profile and let's keep moving. I know we don't have a lot of time, but that's fine because we don't need a lot of time to build dashboards. These are some reference links. You are going to get this deck pretty soon. And when you do get this deck, I would recommend watching these videos. These are 3 videos that actually go into more depth about Tableau coupled with data science. And here are some fun data sets that you can play around with. But I did promise you that we'd build some dashboards. Let's go ahead and do that now. We got Sample Superstore, great. And I am going to pop open a new workbook just so we can start with a clean slate. I want to show you what it's like to build a dashboard from start to finish. And I'm going to do this because we got just a few minutes left before Q&A. I'm going to do this in a few minutes. We're going to connect to data. Tableau opens up this connection dialog box. We are going to actually connect to a saved data source, Sample Superstore. And in doing so, we get all these dimensions and all these measures from our data source. If I want to say edit data source, it will take me to the data source tab. We get a little preview of the orders table coming from this Excel file. And we can see a little preview of what this data looks like. We can add some filters to this data source if we wanted to, et cetera, et cetera. We're already processing data in Tableau just in this step. But let's say I want to make a map. All you have to do is double click on a geographic dimension. So Tableau recognizes these as being geographically related. So let's just click on state to make it simple. Double click, we get some state data. I'm going to size these circles by sales. All right. And we see California, Texas, and New York are the largest. Duh. If I had population data, I would divide it by the population to try and normalize this. But because we're doing this very quickly, let's just make it quick. Sure, That's my sales by state. Double click, just like you would. Let's do sales by state. Similar to like Excel, we just made a view, right? Now, if I want to create a new view, let's do this. Maybe we want to see profits by state as well. So instead of double clicking, I'm just going to drag state to my rows, and I'm going to bring profit onto my columns. I'm going to sort state descending by the field profit. And there we go. Now we've got state profit. Great. And lastly, maybe quantity. All right, I'm going to make a tree map. So I want state on detail. And I will pull this off. It automatically made a map for me, but I actually want a square. And I do not want these latitude and longitudes that Tableau generated. So now I need to put quantity on size, and we have a tree map. I want to label these. Cool. So now I have state quantity. Let's see. State quantity. Great. Now I'll make my little dashboard. I'll bring the state out. I'll bring this little profit bar chart and quantity over here. I will delete this container, and I will fit this to entire view. And we see our data. You can do this with many many charting libraries in Python and R, but it's not so easy to make this interactive as it is in Tableau. In Tableau, the easiest way to make these charts talk to one another is just by hovering over this use this filter. Just going to click use this filter, and now if I want to see, oh, this isn't, oh, it's going to filter for Illinois. All right, not interesting. But let's say I want to make this actually city and sort city by profit. Field, descending, great. Let's go back to our quantity. Let's do city. And I want to make city my label. I don't want county. And now it might be a little bit more interesting. Michigan, cool. Most profitable, not state, but city is Detroit. Largest quantity, Detroit. Great. What about Texas? What about California? What about Tennessee? Ooh, not so great. And this is how easy it is to make an interactive dashboard in Tableau. Very simple. If I wanted to publish this, I could just publish the workbook, and now we've shared our insights with end users. So this is like the most basic dashboard ever, but to do this in, say, D3, I'm not going to say good luck because it's so possible, but it is not mindless work as this was for me right now. So I hope this gives you a good example or a good idea of how powerful Tableau is and how easy it is to communicate your insights with Tableau. And that is all I've got. Thank you for your participation. You're going to receive the slide deck very soon. And now I'll let the host take it back over.
Thanks, Robert. And I think you can take up questions now. I see there's one open question.
Okay, let's go to the chat. Oh, no, this is from Neutron. Let's see, Q&A. Let me stop sharing. Okay, what tools do you use to help manage your various freelance projects? Right. I often use the tools that my clients give me, but for me, I honestly use Google Drive, and I create a specific folder structure in Google Drive, and that is one way that I manage my freelance projects, but I also use an application called and.co, and and.co is a tool that I use to invoice my clients and get payments from clients. So I'll just say Google Drive plus and.co. And.co. All right. Template workbook in Tableau, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, the question is it possible to create a template workbook in Tableau that can create a new copy per client, assuming the data structure is the same? Absolutely. If the data structure is the same, you saw how I clicked on a state? Let's imagine it wasn't a state, but it was actually a client. You could literally just have a filter for client, and that client is going to come in and they will see their data because it will be filtered for them. So I'll just say absolutely, you would just create a client filter. Ooh, client filter. All right. So how do you assess how much data processing will be required for various projects, and how do you manage those expectations to the client? This one does take a little bit of experience, but I can get a sense from the client how much processing they've done already. And what's important is that the client is familiar with their data already. If they have not explored their data, then I won't even tell them that we're ready for a data processing project. I'll say that we need to go back in the data science workflow, and we need to do a data exploration first. I need to do an exploration. I need to get familiar with your data and help you get familiar with your data, because clearly no one's looked at this yet. And if nobody's looked at this, then it needs to be done before we begin processing anything. And when I do start the data processing, I will ask them for one objective. So like conversions, if it will, like if that was a project that we were working on, let's say it's marketing related, I'd say, all right, we need to get the data to allow you to understand your conversions first before we move on, and that will give us some experience in processing data together. So to answer your question more succinctly, if they're familiar with their data, then we start off really small, one byte at a time, with a single objective. And I sort of give them like 2 weeks, right? I like to turn things around quickly. So let's say it's a 2-week project on that. If they're not familiar with their data, then what we need to do is we need to first explore it. And I would actually make that like 2-week sprints. So let's explore it for 1 week, and then let's explore it more in a more focused way in the second week. And then for a couple weeks, let's try to process this. All right, so hopefully that answers your question, Tristan. And then Bhavik Akula, we've got, can you explain LODs? So I can try. There are 3 types of LODs. There are fixed LODs, include LODs, and exclude LODs. When you say LOD, it stands for level of detail. When you saw me drag pills, is what they're called in Tableau, onto the view, that is me adding detail or dimensionality to my view. And that's really important. Keep in mind when you're using include or exclude LODs. If I don't have any details on my screen, I can actually write an include LOD to get the average sales by state and that include LOD will say, I want to include state as part of my detail, and then calculating average sales for each of these states. You drag that out into your view, and you get an average sales by state without even having it in the view, which is great. Let's say you have state in the view. but you actually want to calculate an average region, what you do then is say, I want to exclude state from the LOD, and that will exclude state from the calculation and calculate the average at a regional level. So that would be a nested LOD where I exclude state and I include region. Okay. The last one is fixed. Fixed is where you specify in your calculation the level of detail that you want your calculation to be operated at. And this is agnostic of whatever pills are in your LOD. So Bhavik, hopefully that answers your question. If there are no other questions, then I think we can open up the poll that Gray Campus is going to send out to you all to get some more feedback.
Hi all, we still have few more minutes. So if you have any questions, I would request you to quickly run them through a chat window or Q&A session. We see no questions coming up. So if you have any further questions, feel free to shoot a mail to support@graycampus.com. And once again, thank you all for joining today's session. And you will receive the recording and slide deck in about 2 days. And you can also get the recording of this or look at the recording of this on our website and YouTube as well. Once again, thanks to everyone for participating in this webinar.